April 18th, the Biden administration announced that the Transportation Security Administration will no longer enforce the federal mandate requiring masks in all U.S. airports and on-board aircraft.
Finally!
Effective immediately, masks are optional for all airport employees, crew members, and customers inside U.S. airports and on-board aircraft.
It's over immediately. Congratulations.
All right, guys, so as you can see there, that is passengers on planes celebrating the fact that they no longer have to wear masks because a Trump-appointed judge struck down Biden's federal mask mandate for transportation in a surprising ruling yesterday that has kind of shocked the internet, okay? Because the federal mask mandate that applies to airports, airplanes, and public transportation is kind of one of those things that is still reminding us that we're still in a pandemic, because most of the country, even some of the more liberal parts of the country, have kind of abandoned some of their mandates, particularly the mask mandate. So again, when this news came out, this kind of shocked people, okay? And it kind of pissed some people off, particularly liberal reporters, as they did not like the judge's ruling here, which was essentially that the CDC overstepped their authority when it came to implementing this mask mandate for public transportation in the first place. So there are liberal reporters out here, particularly blue checks on Twitter, that are upset that we're not required to wear condoms over our face anymore on airplanes. And they're so upset that they actually start attacking the judge's age and background after she made this ruling. Now, keep in mind, this judge is a woman, okay? She's a woman. And according to the Democrats, if you attack a so-called minority, then you are automatically racist or sexist. So these liberal reporters are letting us know exactly how sexist they are with these attacks on this judge just because they made a ruling that she didn't like, right? Which is kind of hilarious how this works. Now, the judge's name is Miss Kathryn Kimball Mizelle, and this is what the blue check is saying, right? Alex Stein says, the judge who made this ruling, Kathryn Kimball, is 35 years old, was confirmed at the age of 33 during the lame duck judiciary matters. Jeff Bennett says, the judge behind this mass ruling, Kathryn Kimball Mizelle, was the 10th Trump judicial nominee to be rated not qualified by the American Bar Association. Eric Geller says, the ABA rated Kathryn Kimball Mizelle not qualified. She is in her mid-30s and will likely continue issuing rulings like this for decades to come. Steve Bannon says, the judicial context matters. After Trump lost in 2020, Senate Republicans confirmed an unqualified 33-year-old lawyer who'd never tried a case. The GOP gave her a lifetime appointment anyways. Today, Judge Kathryn Kimball Mizelle handed down this ruling. Mark Joseph Stern says, try explaining to your friends in other liberal democracies that a single unelected, life-tenured 35-year-old judge just abolished the air travel mask mandate for the entire country. No peer nation would tolerate such a power-drunk juristocracy. Our system is badly broken. Yeah, so again, ain't it funny how that works? Because I thought that criticizing a so-called minority, especially criticizing their qualifications, was sexist, right? She's a woman. So criticizing this woman's qualifications is supposed to be sexist. It would be if this woman was a Democrat judge, right? But because this woman is a Republican judge, it's open season on her. You can say that, oh, she's not qualified and that she's too young. You guys see how this works? So with that being said, let's actually get to some reactions from everyday normal people in regards to how they feel about this federal mask mandate being lifted. Take a look.
Travelers at BWI Marshall Airport have gotten used to flying wearing masks during the COVID-19 pandemic, mandated by the CDC.
I think it's probably necessary right now with the rising cases going on now.
I would prefer not to, but I do it for other people. Their safety.
But Monday, a federal judge in Florida ruled the mask mandate on planes, trains, and federal transportation is void based on something called the Administrative Procedure Act.
The statute created by Congress giving the CDC power to regulate the transmission of communicable diseases wasn't broad enough to justify the mask mandate.
Kim Wheely teaches administrative law at the University of Baltimore. She says even though this was a court in Florida, the judge wrote the opinion to apply nationwide. But Wheely isn't sure the judge's ruling has merit.
I think it's erroneous just on the plain language of the statute. The statute is very, very broad. And if people don't like the amount of power the CDC was given, the remedy really should be to go back to Congress to narrow the scope of the power.
Have a good one, guys.
Travelers we spoke to have mixed feelings about dropping the mandate on planes, but overall they say they would still feel comfortable flying.
Would I feel safe? Of course. Would I wear a mask still? Yes.
If somebody wants to wear it to keep themselves safe, that's perfectly up to them. I wouldn't be upset if it was dropped.
Wheely says there will almost certainly be an appeal of the ruling, so travelers should check the CDC's website to see what they decide about the mandate.
I'm sure the lawyers at the CDC are figuring that out in this moment. What do we do about this in this particular moment? Do we comply with it? My guess is they will. My guess is there'll be an appeal.
Yeah, so everybody's assuming that the Biden administration is going to appeal this ruling from this judge, which probably will happen. However, I would think that the Democrats should sit back and think long and hard about, do they actually really want to fight this fight? Because it's at the point now where a lot of this country has gone back to normal. And like I told you guys before the beginning of this video, the mask mandates on planes and airports is kind of one of the last reminders that we have that we are still in a pandemic. And Democrats are low-key trying to claim victory over the pandemic. So that being said, from a political perspective, it might just be better for them to let this ride, right? And not necessarily force the issue on it. But who knows? I mean, they probably will try to fight it anyways, just because they love their power and their authority, right? So with that being said, let's actually check in on the spokesperson for the Biden administration, Ms. Jen Psaki, who fielded some tough questions, aka questions that make you sound like a SOB, from Peter Doocy about this federal mask mandate being vacated by this Trump judge. Take a listen.
Thank you, Jen. You said about this mask ruling out of a federal court in Florida that it's a disappointing decision, and you say you continue to recommend that people wear masks. Why is it that we can sit here in the White House briefing room with no masks, but people can't sit in an airplane cabin with no masks?
Well, Peter, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. That I'm aware of. If you're a doctor, I wasn't aware of that until today.
Right.
Okay, not a doctor. Just making sure. I don't know. And
nor do you play one on TV.
Nor does he play one on TV. There you go. Most days. But these determinations, remember the masking guidance is green, yellow, and red. We are currently in a green zone in Washington, D.C., so they're not recommending it. Some people can still wear a mask if they want to. Many people do, or wear them in meetings, or wear them at certain times where you're going to be around or sitting close to people, or maybe you have an immunocompromised parent or friend, and so people make that decision. And this is based on health considerations and data that the CDC looks at about transmissibility as we've seen an increase in cases on airplanes.
And would the president support if a flight is leaving from an airport in a green zone, those people don't have to wear masks?
Again, Peter, there's been long a difference from the beginning about people on an airplane and in federal transportation vehicles and situations than where they are in locations. Like we here continue to be in Washington, D.C., a green zone. But what we'd ask for, I think it's important to remember, is a 2-week extension, or not ask for, what we had announced was a 2-week extension to look at the data and make recommendations based on the data and the science about whether it should be continued or not.
I love how Democrats answer to any hard question that they get is, well, I'm not a doctor, right? Just like Ketanji Brown Jackson when asked about defining a woman. Well, I'm not a biologist, right? So, I mean, again, if you have to have special qualifications to have an opinion on anything, then why have an opinion, period, right? Why have an opinion, Ms. Psaki? How can you be disappointed in something when you're not a doctor, right? According to your logic. I don't understand. I just find that to be fascinating how the Democrats are now doing that. But yeah, with that being said, there's no surprises there in terms of what Jen Psaki said about how the Biden administration feels about this. They're upset that they've lost their power and their authority, and they may appeal it based off of that. But I don't necessarily think that automatically means that they're going to keep it in place. And again, the reason why is because of the symbolism, right? The Democrats need to pick up some type of W. And I just find it amazing how the mainstream liberal media has stopped talking about COVID so quickly, right? After the Democrats decided, hey, we can go back to normal now. Mainstream liberal media went right along with them, mainly because Democrats are trying to avoid getting blown out by the Republicans in the midterms. Okay, ain't it funny how that works? So with that being said, the Democrats are trying to frame it as if their policies is what put us in this place in which we can go back to normal, right, when it comes to this pandemic. And again, them reversing this may go against what they're actually trying to do, the W that they're trying to pick up here when it comes to the pandemic. So even though they might appeal, I'm not necessarily sure if the Biden administration is going to keep this in place for much longer, okay? They might just appeal just because they don't like the fact that the judge is saying that the CDC doesn't have that authority, but they might not necessarily use the CDC's authority to reinstate the mask mandate, if that makes sense, right? So with that being said, hey, I'm just happy that people aren't going to be getting kicked off of flights anymore, and they're not going to be fights on planes anymore because of people's masks, right? That's what I'm happy to see, because I'm going to tell you, for the last, couple years or so, there's been so many people that have been physically harmed, okay? People that have been harassed. Things that have happened on planes that are completely unnecessary simply because of mask, okay? Whether somebody's wearing a mask, whether somebody's not wearing a mask. Again, for whatever reason, this whole thing has caused so much animosity and division in this country, okay? And I really don't like to see that. I really don't like to see it. So I'm pretty sure that these sky waitresses that are gun-ho about wearing a mask, because there's a whole lot of them out there that are like that, they're going to be very disappointed because their power has been taken away. As it seems that most of the airlines that I've read about, the major ones, they're making it optional, okay? They're not continuing to mandate it unless they're traveling to a country that does mandate it. Outside of that, they're making it optional. So yeah, the sky waitresses, just like the Biden administration, they're losing a lot of their power, so they might be upset about this ruling just as much as the Biden administration is. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.